When you think about a school, you probably picture the buildings, right? The classrooms, the library, maybe the football field. But these days, a huge part of school life happens online. So that brings us to a really crucial question. Who actually controls those digital spaces where your students are connecting and learning? Is your school building its community on land it owns, or is it just renting? All right, let's get right into it. Before we even start talking about platforms and technology, we have to talk about people. Because at the end of the day, a school is a community. And in this century, that community absolutely needs a digital home if it's going to thrive. So seriously, take a second and think about it. Where does your school community actually live online right now? My guess? It's probably scattered all over the place, across tons of different Discord servers, endless WhatsApp groups, and random Facebook threads. They're all just trying to connect, work together, and, just be students. And look, this isn't just about kids catting online. These connections are absolutely vital. We're talking about the bedrock of social-emotional support, a space for peer-to-peer learning, and a place to build real relationship skills. In fact, research shows that students do their best work in small, private groups where they feel safe and confident. That's where the magic really happens.
Okay, but here's the catch. When all those important communities are forming on these giant commercial social media platforms, your school isn't the owner of that space. It's basically a tenant. You're building your home on rented land, and you have to play by the landlord's rules.
So let's be super clear about what we mean here. Rented land, that's when you use platforms like Facebook, Discord, or WhatsApp for your community. Owned land is a private, dedicated digital space that your school controls, top to bottom. As someone on Reddit put it perfectly, the problem with rented land is you're building your community on their land, not yours. And this is where it gets really interesting, because there's a fundamental conflict of interest here. I mean, look at this. Commercial platforms are designed for one thing, to maximize ad revenue and collect your data. But schools, they're focused on student safety, privacy, and actual learning. Their goals aren't just a little different, they're often on a total collision course. And that collision creates some serious dangers. Data privacy is a huge one. Research shows that even data that's supposed to be anonymous can often be traced right back to an individual. Then you've got the constant battle for attention against non-educational content, moderation tools that just weren't built for a school setting, and the constant risk that a sudden algorithm change could totally wreck your community overnight. Not to mention, students get what we call login fatigue. They're just tired of signing up for yet another service they don't own or control.
And hey, don't just take my word for it. The academic world is incredibly clear on this. This quote from a paper on educational data really says it all. Mixing school and social media data without proper safeguards isn't a small mistake. It's a direct breach of a student's privacy. It's an ethical line that is way too easy to cross when you're on rented land.
So, if renting is so full of risks, what's the other option? Well, it's about moving off that rented property and building your own digital quad, a space that's designed from the ground up specifically for your school's community.
So instead of that chaotic, ad-filled, distracting social media feed, just imagine this: a clean, focused, and totally secure environment. A place where the only goal is to help your students connect and learn safely. That's what it means to build on land that you actually own.
So what should you be looking for in an owned platform? Well, it really boils down to 4 key things. First, total control. You set the rules, you manage the data, you design the whole experience. Second, it has to be designed for safety with things like teacher moderation built right in. Third, it needs to be customizable for your school's specific needs. And finally, it has to have integrated tools that bring everything together in one place, which, by the way, solves that whole login fatigue problem we mentioned earlier.
Okay, so once you build this space, what's the payoff? The benefits of making this switch are huge, and they happen fast. Let's call it the ownership advantage.
First, and this is a big one, you are in complete control of your data. This means you can guarantee you're compliant with major privacy laws like FERPA here in the US or GDPR over in Europe. You're no longer just hoping some big tech company is doing the right thing with your students' sensitive information. You know. Second, you create a true sanctuary for learning. A huge risk for students today is all the non-educational noise online. An owned platform gets rid of the ads, the clickbait, and the algorithms that are specifically designed to pull your students' attention away from their schoolwork. And honestly, this gets to the real heart of it all. In a space that's built for them, a space they can trust,
students feel safer to actually engage. This leads to way deeper connections and a real sense of belonging. We're moving beyond superficial likes and creating a genuine support network.
And you know what? We know this model works. Just look at this data. The most successful online communities out there are things like professional networks and skill-building programs. These are goal-oriented groups focused on learning and development, which is exactly the kind of environment a school wants to create.
All right, this all sounds great in theory, but I can hear you asking, how do we actually do this? It's a fair question. So let's lay out a clear, totally achievable blueprint for taking ownership of your school's digital home.
Now, the very first thing you need to realize is that this is more doable than ever before. As this expert from Linksfried points out, the barrier to entry for creating your own space is way, way lower than most people think. You don't need a massive IT budget or a team of engineers from Silicon Valley.
So here are your first steps. 1. Define your rules. How are you going to handle privacy and student interactions? Get that clear up front. 2. Make sure you're legally compliant from day 1. 3. Choose the right foundation. You can explore modern social network as a service solutions. Think of these as ready-made toolkits that let you build a private social network without any IT experts. Many can be set up in minutes and give you complete ownership of your data. And finally, step 4, train your educators. The tech is only as good as the people using it, so make sure the training connects the tool to actual teaching.
So we end with this thought. Imagine a safer, more focused, more connected student body. A digital space that actually reflects your school's values, not the business model of some tech giant. Moving from rented land to owned land is a big decision, for sure. But what it's really about is investing in the most valuable asset a school has, its community. So what could your school achieve with that?